If questions related to Helm scares in your DevOps or SRE interview, then you are at the right place. So today's video will talk about Helm. So this is primarily focused for interviews. So let's see what Helm is first. So Helm is a package manager for Kubernetes. So in Linux, we used to have apt for Ubuntu-based system and Yum for RHEL-based system, right? So similarly, we used to have Helm for Kubernetes. So that install the package. So for example, if you have an application and we need to install multiple YAML, I mean, we need to have multiple YAML manifest for that. So he'll simplify that and combine those YAML files. So it's not like directly combining it, but on a high level, we can understand it combines those YAML files and we call it as charts. So using Helm, we can install Kubernetes application pretty quick and we can manage version of application, upgrade and roll back the application or deployments and uninstall the application as well. So there are a lot of benefits. So the major thing is it is a package manager for Kubernetes. Now question is why Helm? So without Helm, installing application on Kubernetes requires multiple YAML files. For example, if you want to have some application, it has to be associated with the YAML deployment file. Then it might have some services. It might have some Nginx. It can be a lot of things, right? So in that case, separate scripts for different environment, again, that is a bit challenging. So for this use case, we used to can simple use Helm chart primarily. So that install all those steps or all the deployments, right? So now next is the couple of examples we have is Prometheus, Grafana, Argo, CD, Nginx, AWS. So if you talk about these applications, so it takes a lot of steps, right? So it requires deployment, services, config map, service account, RBAC, a lot of things, right? So for all these things, we used to have separate YAML manifest. So what Helm does, it simplifies it and it uses charts to install all those things very quickly. Now, what Helm can do? So it can do all the things like install, upgrade, rollback, uninstall, package, and share. So you can create your own Helm chart and share with your team member or some colleague or client. So now let's see what are the core components. So core components are chart. So it contains Kubernetes YAML manifest, templates, metadata, and configuration values. So examples could be Prometheus chart, Grafana chart. So chart means the steps. So you can say it as on a high level. It is the steps that has, I mean, all those steps written. Like let's see, let's go back. So it says like we have multiple YAML manifest, right? So we have deployments, service, and all that. So it has the right set of things to get this installed, right? So on a high level, we can say a bundle of package, you can say, right? So now next component is repository. So where repository store Helm charts. For example, Bitnami. So most popular is Bitnami. You can something like understand like GitHub. So you can understand GitHub of Helm is Bitnami. So it can be another thing as well, artifact as well. So internal or external. I mean, AWS has its own Helm repo, and if you talk about GCP, it has own Helm repo, right? So it is like a simple like repositories like Bitnami, Artifact Hub. For AWS could be anything, or if you are your personally can it can be anything, right? So now next thing is release. So what a release is a deployed instance of Helm chart. Let's understand. So we want to install Nginx, right? So we can find Nginx in the Helm chart. I mean, at this location, Bitnami. So I think I have it open already. Let me check it. All right. So this is a simple command to check. A simple do this Helm search repo and grep nginx. So if we have simply export and define the repo as Bitnami, and also do simply this, and we can see if we search for this nginx, so it could come like this. So Bitnami nginx. So I have defined the repo as Bitnami for this use case, right? Now go back. So we can simply use Helm install nginx v1. So whatever the application name you want to put, this is called release. And if you want to see, you can put any name over here. So nginx, you can want you want like I want like Ranjan nginx. So it could be anything, right? So this is what we call release, and this is the actual package where it is present in what we say Bitnami. All right, so next is Helm architecture. So it is pretty straightforward. So we have Helm CLI and kubeconfig context, and then Kubernetes cluster. So Helm CLI we interact to Kubernetes cluster via kubeconfig context. Okay, so if it were kubeconfig context, so you might have, I'm assuming you have some understanding of Kubernetes. So it's like it authenticates to it, and it wants to understand which Kubernetes cluster it is going to install. If you want to nginx, so which Kubernetes cluster it wants to install. So you can understand like that. It is used for communicating, installing the package to its respective Kubernetes cluster. All right. So you can see the Kubernetes content. Okay, let me show you if I have it handy. So let me see kube config. Okay, so whenever we install some package, or sorry, install cluster, create a cluster, sorry, not installing, so create a cluster, so the configuration goes to this, right? So we can see whatever the configuration is there. So I have a lot of, so just don't mind it, but yeah, on a high level we can see that. So this is the Kubernetes config current context. Current context shows which uh, cluster is currently authenticated, or the active one. All right. So installing Helm is pretty straightforward. So we install Helm for Mac and like all the OS, different OS. So this is not pretty important. And next is add repository. This is important, right? So when we say Helm repo, add Bitnami. So we are defining over here. So I was telling earlier that we need to define a repo, right? So we are defining this Bitnami repo. So if you want to use some AWS repo, then you can use AWS repo. So it works like that. So this is very important if you want to define a repo before using Helm. So once you have to install the Helm, then we have to define the repo, add a repo. Now we have to update the repo. So it simply update that, not very important. And let's go for the start. Okay. So now we want to search the repo, right? So the simple command is helm search repo and repo name. So if you don't put the repo name as well, so it will put, it will pick up the default repo itself. So I can simply use this. If you want to have, if you are having multiple repo, and though in that case you can put the repo name itself, so that it will show all the respective Helm chart. All right, so next is Helm search repo. I'm grabbing Nginx over here. So I just did a couple of minutes back. There it is. All right. And now, next application using installing application using Helm. So it is simple, pretty straightforward. So Helm install Nginx v1. So this is the release name and the package name. So pretty straightforward. You have to ensure that you are the current context, cluster context is the correct one. So it will connect, it will install or configure the application on that specific cluster itself. So for installing Prometheus, so it is pretty straightforward. So else we have to write all those configuration files. I think I have, I'm not shared the video, but yeah, if you have ever installed the Prometheus, so it is going to go through a lot of steps, right? Now listing Helm release, so it is pretty straightforward. Like Helm list, you can see all the uh, releases that you have deployed, right? So for example, I have two releases, and these are the one that is going to be deployed. So uninstalling Helm is pretty straightforward. Helm uninstall Nginx v1, so it will uninstall the respective packages. Now, third party controller. So what about the package that you don't have it, right? So, or if you have one, you want to so you want to package the application and want to publish it so that other can use it, or you want to share it with a colleague, like there are certain number of, so you don't want your colleague to do it again. So in those cases, we can create your, we can create also. And for this use case, I'm using the Helm chart for AWS. So AWS, like not every chart exists in Vietnam, right? So if AWS is providing some services like from some chart to install load balancer inside the Kubernetes cluster. So for AWS, it is the Vietnamese, like sorry, the repo is here. If we simply go there, or let's do one thing, let me search it. Okay, so we can see all over it. Or let's see ALB AWS Helm. All right, so I got the first one. Let's open it. All right, so we can see it over here. Okay, so we have this as well. All right, so we can see it over here, right? Help repo add EKS. So we are exporting over here. We are installing over here. So the idea is to get the repo, and then do the install. So simply Helm repo add this, right? So it adds the EKS repository. And similarly, we can install simply once we have the repo added. Now next thing is Helm show values. So one more thing. So if you want to install it, so first step is going to add the repo, right? So that it will be we can look for that specific package Helm chart in the repo, right? Now if you want to install, so we can provide the parameter like this. So these are the parameters that we need to provide. So keep system and set cluster name, so like this. So these are the mandatory parameters again, so based on the requirement that we have to understand, but on a high level we can understand that we need to follow this step. So if we talk about Prometheus, so we simply did Helm install Prometheus, and install where it is. Okay, so let's say Helm install Nginx v1, this is the release and the package, right? Helm chart. But in case of AWS, it is um, some parameter input value that we have to provide. Where it is. Okay, so it is here, yeah, like this. But anyways, so now coming back again, so what if you want to create your own Helm chart? So like I want to create my own Helm chart and want to share it with public or some colleague so that he or she can use it, right? So in that case, we can do it. So let's take example repository platform chart, and so this is the application, and for this we have fronted app and backend API, right? And each application I want to create an independent Helm chart so that I mean not everyone I mean no one has to go through all those steps, right? So I'll package the YAML file, YAML manifest into Helm chart, right? So the step is pretty simple. We'll do Helm create front-end API and Helm create backend API. So this is the application platform chart, and inside it we are using two different Helm charts. I mean two different applications. And simply whenever we create run this command, so I think I did it already, so let's do it again. So let's see, ran it. So I create a Helm create front end app. So if I go to front end app, so you can see the files over here. So it just got created, right? So it says, so it is a default structure, right? Chart.yaml, charts, templates, and value.yaml. So the data should be like this. So if I go to templates, cd templates, we see a lot of value, right? So if I open deployment.yaml, so a lot of values, right? So similarly, let's go again, cat ingress.yaml, so a lot of values. So this is not necessary that we need to use them all. So we'll do as per our convenience, as per our requirement. So these are general values, so we don't really need it. So let's go back and see how does it look like if you want to use an application. So the chat.yaml, the entry should look like this. So we have the API version, the name of the application front-end app, the version, then app version, like that. So these are the common fields. So if you go to the templates, so I already show you what are the template structure look like. CD. So we are into template, and if I go to ls-l, so we'll see a lot of data. So there are common resources. So let's go one by one. So I'm not going deep down, but yeah, it should be look like I'll explain the values, like the values.yaml. So it uses for customizing chart deployment across environments. So this is the value that we need to provide. So we need to change this as well, but there are a lot of changes. I mean, a lot of parameters that we need to change. So all those, so it's like a simple, you can understand. It's like a terraform.t values. So you can provide your input values, right? Now like the sample is replica count image, like your tags of pull policies and service type import, right? So all those customizations, and rest on the files we put the variable respective value variables, right? Now let's see the example deployment templates. Okay, so this is the example, like oversee over here you can see the difference between normal YAML manifest and this one is, so we have defined the variables over here. So we have not hard coded anything over here. So this is important. This is the difference between normal YAML manifest and the YAML manifest inside the Helm chart. All right. So next is okay. So we have defined like what the value should look like. Values.image.repository. So this means reads value from values.yaml. Sorry. Right. So okay. All right. So next is packaging Helm chart. So once we have all these ready, so we'll package. So we cannot simply share like okay. So we have these folder structure. What is that? So we have these folder structure and you can use it. So we have to convert this into package, right? So we can simply use Helm package front end app. So it is going to create a package, and similarly for Helm package backend API. So it is going to generate packages. So the generator package looks like something like this. So this is version name. So you have defined in the uh, app itself. Sorry, char.yaml itself, and it works like that. So packaging Helm chart is fine. Now we need to create a repo index. It should be like index.yaml. Now we can host internal Helm repositories as well. So there are couple of sorry, there are a couple of options. So we can use GitHub. So there are multiple options if you want to use S3. If you are to have some internal server, so it could be anything. So we can use it on GitHub pages as well, make it private or public, whatever you want. All right, so these are the example of your private repo. How does it look like? And once, okay, so how we can use it, right? So we need to first add the repo. So simple command, helm repo add, and the platform chart and the name of the repo, I mean the path of the repo, right? So when we can simply run helm install, the name of application, sorry, name of release, and the path of the repo, path of the helm chart. Now, similarly for the another one, backend API. Now, next thing is upgrade application version or deployment. So it is pretty straightforward. So we can put some custom values over here. We can simply use variables, the version variable, so that we can simply upgrade to the latest version. So, all right. So this was all about Helm from interview perspective. So I think you might have got some insight. So see you in the next video. Bye bye.